You ready?
How's it going, guys? Well, we have officially entered 2023. And whilst we may look back at 2022 with fun memories of soaring through the skies with Maverick, exploring the oceans of Pandora, or getting your morb on with everyone's favourite bloodsucker Morbius, it's now time to look ahead at the year to come with my most anticipated movies of 2023. As always, there are just too many films coming out over the next 12 months, so instead, I'll be giving you my top 20. These are of course entirely subjective and are also based on UK release dates, hence why you may see some potential Oscar hopefuls crop up on this list because of their delayed release over here. But before we hit number 20, amazingly, there were even more films that didn't quite make it, but can rest comfortably knowing that they at least made it to my honourable mentions. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. This won't be the only time you'll hear me say this, but the next few films to come from DC over the course of the next year are utterly meaningless. Obviously, we should still go out to support them for the sake of the cast and crew who worked on them, but with the reset incoming, it doesn't really matter. That being said, reuniting with the Shazam family should be fun, and I like the first one a lot, so I see no reason why this sequel should be any different. Next Goal Wins. Even though I was let down with Taika Waititi's most recent offering with Thor Love and Thunder, I think tackling a semi-original story will do him some good. The story in question follows the real-life tale of the American Samoa national football team, who suffered one of the most embarrassing losses in football history. Alongside Michael Fassbender returning to the acting world, we could be looking at a modern-day Cool Runnings. The Flash. Again, same as Shazam, the film is free of consequences, which is a shame given how the original intention of the Flash movie was to act as a restart to the DCEU. But regardless, there is a morbid sense of curiosity surrounding this project. Some say it's got the potential to be the best DC movie of all time, whilst others say it's a raging dumpster fire. So whether it be one or the other, I can't lie and say I'm not intrigued to see what lies in store. And John Wick Chapter 4. The only reason why this didn't make my top 20 was because I personally think the series should have stopped at 3. But nevertheless, I will never, ever turn down the opportunity to watch Keanu Reeves run through a bunch of henchmen, showing off his newest gun-fu skills, not to mention the prospect of a showdown between Donnie Yen and Hiroyuki Sanada. Count me in. But let's not dilly-dally anymore and get cracking with this list. Marvel are, of course, set to have another cracking year in 2023, and coming in at number 20 is The Marvels. Little is known about this project, besides that Brie Larson is set to return as Carol Danvers, alongside Tiona Paris as Monica Rambeau, and Aman Vellani as Kamala Khan. This trio could make for a real cracking on-screen team, especially with Vellani's charm, and I also really like director Nia DaCosta's previous film, which was the remake of Candyman. I have no idea what to expect, but Marvel's batting average is still pretty strong for me, even if there have been the occasional strikeouts. Admittedly, my experience with this game is far more limited than others, but when I have played it, well, it usually ends in chaos. But I have much higher hopes for Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which, judging from the trailers, looks like it could be a total nerdy blast. I have a lot of confidence in directors Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley, who previously made the brilliant Game Night. So with a star-studded cast featuring the likes of Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez and Hugh Grant, this has a really strong chance to be the sleeper hit of 2023. Now, controversially, I actually don't think Fast X will come out this year, but I'm including it on the list nevertheless. I say that because Fast X has apparently snagged itself a $300 million plus budget, which is just bonkers in itself. But when you also think of how Fast and Furious veteran director Justin Lin actually stepped down from this project and was replaced by Louis Leterrier, I have a feeling this will be the wildest Fast and Furious film to date, and I honestly don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. What I do know is that I can very happily remove my brain and watch Vin Diesel doing implausible things with cars, all in the name of family, for quite a while. When this next film was announced at D23 last year, it was met with a mixed response. The premise of Wish centers on a wishing star. You know, the one that every Disney character makes a wish upon, but now come to life. Not much else has been disclosed besides that it will feature the voice of Academy Award winner Ariana DeBose, who has already performed one of the songs that will feature. Oh, did I forget to mention that it's a musical too? I have a feeling that Wish will make a big splash when it comes out later this year. If there's one film I did not expect to wind up on my most anticipated of the year list, it's Greta Gerwig's Barbie. On paper, this should not sound as good as it does. And yet, with Margot Robbie leading the way, Ryan Gosling as Ken, an all-star cast, and Gerwig in the director's seat, all signs point towards this possibly being very special. Plus, apparently it's going to have a very meta edge to the film and be somewhat self-aware, which for me is a big tick. Not to mention, the trailer did a shot-for-shot recreation of 2001: A Space Odyssey. At that point, I'm yours. Now, it's definitely worth highlighting that the Transformers series is somewhat of a guilty pleasure of mine. Yes, that includes the Michael Bay movies too. Give me 2 hours of robots fighting each other and I'll be as happy as I was when I was 6 years old watching cartoons doing the same thing on a Saturday morning. So with Transformers Rise of the Beasts, my request is simple. More of the same, please. Okay, maybe a little more character work wouldn't go amiss, but if the trailer is anything to go by, it looks like a massive battle involving the Autobots and Decepticons, but also the Maximals, Predacons, and Terracons. Nah, I'm throwing caution to the wind for this one, sign me the hell up. Early in 2022, we were all treated to the 5th installment of the Scream franchise, and somehow, this series just hasn't lost any steam. Maybe it's because it prides itself on being a meta-commentary on the horror genre itself, so in that case it's constantly evolving with the times. Or because deep down, it can also be a straightforward whodunit. Regardless, Scream 5 was tons of fun, merging the legacy characters of the past with some fresh faces, all while directly addressing the notion of requels at the same time. This year, the same cast and crew, minus Neve Campbell and David Arquette, are leaving behind Woodsboro, and are instead residing in New York City. And with a new ghost face lurking, the city streets of the Big Apple seem like a prime hunting ground. Whenever a new Damien Chazelle project rolls around, you can bet I'll be chomping at the bit to see it. Babylon looks and sounds crazy, almost like an amalgamation of The Wolf of Wall Street meets The Great Gatsby. Chazelle has always been a director of spectacle, whether it be a sprawling musical number on the LA freeway or an intense drum solo, and Babylon looks as if he's pulled out all of the stops. Set in the golden age of Hollywood, Margot Robbie stars as an actress desperate to make her mark in the pictures, whereas Brad Pitt looks to be playing a rambunctious Hollywood exec. I'm not too sure what else the plot might entail because the trailers are like a wild dose of adrenaline and don't give much away, but the reviews have been strong, and I trust Chazelle implicitly. We are in the midst of one of the greatest comeback stories in Hollywood history, and that is Brendan Fraser deservedly returning to the limelight. And not only is he winning over the public's hearts with his kindness and humility, he could also be on the cusp of winning Best Actor for his performance in The Whale. This looks devastating. Just from the initial picture that they released, you knew this was likely to be a transformative performance from Fraser, and whilst director Darren Aronofsky is known for being a very metaphorical director sometimes, I mean, take a look at Requiem for a Dream or Mother, he can conjure some first-class performances from his actors, and that's what it looks like we have here. The trailer absolutely broke me, and I'm also really interested to see Sadie Sink in a role other than Max from Stranger Things. Yeah, I'm as shocked as you are. Prior to the trailer being released, this film would not have featured on this list, let alone be number 11. But such is the power of marketing, because the second trailer that came out at the end of 2022 was one of the best trailers of that year. For starters, it's brilliant that they've got Nintendo actually working on the animation for this movie, because it looks exactly like it belongs with the video games. I think the voice cast is immensely talented, and yes, I'm even starting to warm to Chris Pratt as Mario. Plus, it looks like it was made by filmmakers who have a real affinity for this property and want families and fans to have fun with this. Now, time for a big call? I think that this movie will comfortably make over $1 billion. You can take that one to the bank. Literally. Coming in at number 10 is a film that I initially was expecting to be released last year, but because of that pesky awards season, it got delayed in the UK, and that is Steven Spielberg's semi-autobiographical film, The Fabelmans. The story focuses on a young man who has a passion for filmmaking and how he explores that in the midst of family troubles at home. I don't think anyone in a month of Sundays could doubt that Steven Spielberg isn't one of the greatest directors of all time. And so you're telling me he's made a film detailing how he fell in love with film in the first place? Of course I'd be excited for that. The trailers look wonderful, and the reviews so far seem to back that up, so I am most definitely ready for another hit of Spielbergian magic. The first Rocky will always be one of the best sports dramas of all time, and Rocky IV will always be one of the greatest war movies of all time. But the Creed series is on track to go 3 for 3 this year, and I'm praying it does. Star Michael B. Jordan is actually doing a Stallone and stepping behind the camera as well as in front for this third round. The previous 2 Creed movies have done an excellent job at balancing genuine human drama with the remarkable boxing sequences. And the same looks to be the case for Creed 3, as it appears to set up the age-old former friend turned rival dynamic as Jonathan Majors dons the boxing gloves. I hope the absence of Rocky Balboa isn't felt too much, but I think Creed has done enough to stand on its own and deliver a knockout to audiences. Well, it's looking like it's going to be a packed year for Jonathan Majors, as before he steps in the ring with Creed 3, he first is set to go toe-to-toe with our 2 favourite shrinking superheroes in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Expectations are high for this one, as the promise is that this will be a significant jigsaw piece in the multiverse saga for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and will give us our first real look at Kang the Conqueror, who is also said to be the big bad across this chapter of the MCU. I think there'll be plenty of fun to be had exploring the quantum realm in all of its weirdness, but also the promise that this will be much darker than the previous Ant-Man and Wasp films. I know Marvel have been a little ropey in setting up this saga, but if they pull it off with this, I think it will get us really pumped for what is to come. Wonka is directed by Paul King, director of Paddington 1 and 2, as well as written by the same crew. Need I say more? Timothée Chalamet is one of the biggest stars on the planet for a reason, and I'm really excited to see what he brings to this musical based on the beloved, iconic and ever-eccentric Willy Wonka. This is certain to be a smash hit in time for Christmas, and given my unyielding love for the Paddington movies, this seems like the perfect fit for King and his writers. Some of you may be shocked to not see this at number 1, and that's not to say I'm not excited for Oppenheimer. If anything, it should stress how great this year is looking for movies. I'm a self-confessed Christopher Nolan fanboy, so even if he said he was making a film about watching grass grow, I'd still show up opening night. But his newest project is one that fascinates me. Cillian Murphy plays J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the nuclear bomb. The film is set to detail Oppenheimer's discovery, the infamous Trinity test, as well as the eventual fallout. Nolan could be onto a real winner here, as well as a potential awards contender come the end of the year. It looks almost horror-esque in places, and if reports are to be believed, and Nolan did go full-on mad genius and try to recreate the explosion, well, he's one crazy son of a bitch. Now, when I started putting this list together towards the end of the year, Guardians 3 was actually much lower down, primarily because of how disappointed I was with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. But yet that quickly changed after two things. First was the release of the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which reminded me why I loved the first Guardians so much. It was the perfect blend of outrageous humour and genuine sincerity that really touched me. And then along came the trailer for Guardians 3, which cemented that this is going to be a heartfelt farewell to the Guardians as we know them. Considering this has always been James Gunn's baby, I think he's going to go out all guns blazing and will likely deliver an ending to this trilogy that will have you laughing your socks off and reaching for the tissues. I'm worried about Rocket though. Like, I don't think I can handle watching him die. Even after somehow surviving a nuclear blast by hiding in a fridge, everyone's favourite intrepid explorer returns for what is purported to be his last ever outing. Harrison Ford dons the hat and whip yet again for what is sure to be a rip-roaring adventure on the big screen. Now, in terms of most recent outings, admittedly Kingdom of the Crystal Skull wasn't great, but for the 5th installment, Spielberg will not be directing, and instead, taking his place is James Mangold, director of such brilliant features like Logan and Ford v Ferrari. So that left me much more at ease, not to mention Ford is also going to be joined by the excellent Phoebe Waller-Bridge and squaring off against Mads Mikkelsen. So if Ford, Mangold and co can remind audiences just what Indiana Jones is capable of, then this will be the perfect way to conclude the series. Denis Villeneuve returns to Arrakis for what is sure to be one almighty sci-fi epic. The first Dune won me over with the intricate world building, but now that world is built, so this sequel should hopefully take things up a notch. The last we saw of Dune, Timothée Chalamet's Paul was marching off through the desert with the Fremen, ready to earn his destiny as the chosen one to save the universe. And so considering what part 1 was capable of, and that part 2 could be the climax, I'm not entirely sure if Denis is signed on to make more of these movies, but I can rest assured knowing that he is gonna pull out all of the stops. This is gonna have to be seen on the biggest IMAX screen possible so the visuals can once again dazzle me, and hopefully Hans Zimmer can blow out my eardrums with another epic score. I can't freaking wait. Whilst I thought the whole splitting the final film in a series with part 1 and part 2 was something that died off in the 2010s, well, it looks like Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise never got the memo. Regardless, how can you not be excited for this? After the release of Top Gun Maverick last year, Tom Cruise has seemingly taken it upon himself to be the saviour of the cinema-going experience, and to save us all from the clutches of those dreaded streaming sites. And you know what? Good on him. Top Gun Maverick was the perfect cinematic experience, and so, with Tom Cruise and co in that mindset for the newest Mission Impossible movie, well then my expectations are sky high. I thought the first trailer that came out was fantastic, setting the stage for what seems to be the biggest mission yet. I'm sure newcomers Hayley Atwell and Pom Clementine will fit right in, and oh, there's just the small case that Tom Cruise rode a motorcycle off a cliff and then parachuted down, as well as hanging off of a biplane as it hurtles and dives through the air. This man is willing to give his life for cinema, and we thank him for it. I really do mean it when I say that pretty much any film in my top 4 could have been number 1, but what seals it for me and makes Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse my most anticipated movie of 2023 is that feeling when I was sat in the cinema, fortunate enough to watch an early preview of Into the Spider-Verse, and being blown away by it. I left thinking, wow, this movie is something special. And I've had that feeling ever since. That first film is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, and it gets better with every rewatch. So this sequel has some pretty big boots to fill. But as they say about sequels, sometimes you gotta go bigger to be better. And oh snap, does this look like it's gone bigger. Judging from the newest trailer that came out, this will simultaneously be an Easter egg hunter's wet dream of spotting all the different variants of Spider-Man, all of which, I might add, are animated in their own unique style, making this one of the largest animated projects of all time, but also a much darker and more intense challenge for Miles. But what I really appreciated was that amongst the references to Spider-Man from the PlayStation 4 game, or Oscar Isaac's Spider-Man 2099 looking like an absolute beast, the film still appears to retain the beating heart that made the first so endearing, with the theme of family being the driving force. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was lightning in a bottle, and I know they say lightning never strikes twice, but I think Across the Spider-Verse might be the exception. So that does it for this list. I think we can all agree it's an incredibly stacked list of films due out, but tell me, what are you most excited for? Are there any that didn't perhaps feature on this list? Let me know in the comments below. And also, make sure to stay tuned to this channel as well, because my year in review will conclude very soon with my tribute to film in the year that was 2022. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy New Year, everyone. Look forward to seeing you throughout 2023, but I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.